Imagine lying in bed at night, eyes gently closed, breath soft and slow. And as you drift into the first stage of sleep, time itself simply stops. The ticking halts. The seconds no longer pass, not just for you, but for everything. The stars freeze in place. The tides hold their breath. Even the earth forgets to turn. And when you wake, the world begins again like nothing ever paused. But what if you remembered? We take time for granted. It surrounds us like air, unseen, inescapable. We live by it, die by it, dream within it. And yet, no one can touch it. No one can hold it. Only feel it slipping through our fingers with every breath. But what if sleep was a secret loophole? What if the moment you close your eyes, the universe takes a breath too? And in that breath, time bows its head and pauses. Just for you, it sounds impossible. But then again, so does dreaming. Because when you sleep, your mind exits the stage of logic. The clock dissolves. Minutes blur into memories. Hours into abstract shapes. You dream you're flying, that you're 6 again, that you're someone else. And when you wake, it's been 5 minutes, or 5 hours, or 50 years, depending on how it felt. So we ask the question tonight: what if time truly stops when you sleep? And if it does, where do you go? The science of sleep will tell you. Your brain cycles through stages. Light sleep, deep sleep, REM, back again. Waves of electricity pulse through your cortex. Hormones flood your bloodstream. Your body heals. Your mind resets. But science still cannot explain the why of dreams. Why your subconscious invents other lives. Why your memories rearrange themselves. Why time within sleep is never measured by a clock, but by a feeling. And that feeling is where the mystery begins. Because time, as we know it, is an illusion, a construct, a measurement of movement. But when you're still truly time exists at all. If you float in the vacuum of space, no sun, no spin, no tick of machinery, you would not feel time. You would just be present, infinite, a moment stretched into eternity. And that is what sleep mimics. Night after night, you lay still, you drift, and your mind slips into a quiet so profound it forgets the world entirely. The heartbeat slows, the breath becomes rhythm, and in that rhythm something ancient stirs. A softness, a silence, a moment. Outside of time, midway through the night, something strange happens. You shift from deep sleep into a state that is neither dreaming nor waking. A liminal space. Scientists call it non-REM stage 3, but it feels like floating. Not forward, not backward, just weightless. And here's the curious part. Your brain shows almost no activity. As if it's not thinking, not processing, not even dreaming, just existing. And in that stillness, time becomes irrelevant. No memories are being made. No inner monologue is running. It is as though for a Wailua, not even you, just consciousness, suspended. What if this is the moment time stops? What if the reason sleep feels timeless is because it truly is? You go to bed with a racing mind, you count the minutes, you watch the clock, but then something breaks. A blink, a breath, and suddenly it's morning. You tell yourself 8 hours have passed, but you don't remember them. Because what if they never passed at all? What if your sleep was a pocket in the universe? a pause in the grand mechanism of motion, and your body simply re-enters time when it's ready. There's poetry in that, a cosmic kindness, a world that understands how tired you are, and says, pause, I'll wait. Maybe that's what dreams are. Not stories, not fantasies, but echoes of a self that stepped out of time. And the reason we wake is because we must, because no one can remain paused forever, not even stars. And yet, each night we return to that same quiet space where nothing moves, where nothing breaks, where you are completely safe. This idea is not new. Mystics have whispered of the timeless night for centuries. Philosophers have asked, where do we go when we dream? And every culture has stories of souls wandering during sleep. Perhaps they were never metaphors. Perhaps they were memories. Memories of a truth we feel but cannot name. A truth that says, when you surrender to rest, the universe holds its breath. And if that's really even just a little bit, then sleep is not escape. It's alignment, not death, but rehearsal for eternity. Not weakness, but the sacred act of being still, in a world that never stops. So, tonight, as your head touches the pillow, let this thought tuck itself beside you. What if the world waits for you? What if your rest pauses the stars? What if sleep is the place where time stops and the soul remembers how to breathe? Close your eyes. The night deepens. A soft wind stirs the curtains. Somewhere a clock ticks, but you don't hear it anymore. You've slipped beneath the threshold, that gentle veil where thoughts blur and time unhooks from its tether. You're still in the room, but not really. Your body is here, but your awareness is elsewhere. And now the question lingers like perfume in the air. What happens when time no longer moves? Imagine this. A lake so still it reflects the stars perfect. Even the stars begin to fade. Because the lake no longer mirrors reality, it mirrors what lies beneath it. In the same way, your sleeping mind begins to drift, not into dreams, but into something quieter, into silence. But this silence isn't empty. It's ancient, alive. It's where stories were born before language, where music began before sound. It's the place where time first learned to count, then forgot. You float here. Your body is still and warm. The sheets rise and fall with your breath. But inside, something begins to flicker. Not a dream, not a memory, a feeling. The distinct sensation of weightlessness. Not just from gravity, but from responsibility, from identity, from the pressure of being you. Because when time stops, so does the need to be anyone. No schedules, no expectations, no past or future to carry. Only this, a moment that lasts forever. And in that forever, you start to remember things you never knew. Like how your first breath came before you ever knew fear. Like how your heart beats without permission. Like how your body, even now, knows exactly how to heal itself when you let it. That's what sleep is. It's not a pause button. It's a return to the version of you that existed before you learned to worry. Before the world told you how to count minutes and waste hours. And so, as you drift deeper into this quiet space, you begin to notice something strange. The stars in your dreams don't twinkle. They pulse, slow, rhythmic, alive. And they don't move. Not because they can't, but because they don't need to. Because in this place, nothing is rushing. There's no finish line, no alarm clock. Only this, the endless now. And it begins to change you. You feel your heartbeat as if for the first time. Not just the thump in your chest, but the way it echoes through your fingertips, your spine, your breath. You are no longer sleeping. You are existing in stillness. A place where even the moon stops waxing, where the ocean forgets to tide, where gravity rests and dreams are born like ripples across a forgotten sea dot. And then something even stranger happens. You start to wonder if time has stopped. Who am I right now? Because without your name, your role, your memories, what's left? The answer floats in, uninvited but welcome. You are not your thoughts. You are not your calendar. You are not the noise of day. You are what remains when everything else pauses. And maybe that's why sleep is so sacred. Not just because it restores your body, but because it reveals your truth. Not the truth you show the world, but the one that lingers quietly beneath it all. The truth that you are still here, even when everything else fades and then comes. The secondary hook unfolding gently like starlight. If time does stop while you sleep, could it be that your dreams are echoes from a parallel self? One who lives outside of time, one who visits only when you stop. The thought sends a soft shiver through the silence, because it would explain the Darcia vu, the visions, the impossible dreams that feel like memories you've never had. And maybe that's because they are. Maybe time, like sleep, is not linear. Maybe it bends like the fabric of your dreams. And maybe when you let go completely, you fall through. A crack in the system. A place where yesterday, today, and tomorrow all exist together. Where time, tired of pretending to be a straight line, folds in on itself. And you, asleep and unaware, drift between the folds like moonlight on silk dot, still weightless, dot, real dot. And when you begin to stir again, you'll feel it. Not just rest, but something else. A softness in your chest, a lightness in your bones, as if the world did, in fact, stop for you. And maybe it did. Maybe it always does. Because time is not your master. It is your companion. And sometimes, when it sees how tired you are, it waits. It holds the world in place and says, "Sleep, child. I'll be here when you wake." So now, in this stillness, take a breath, deeper than before, and listen closely, not with your ears, but with whatever part of you still knows how to be still. The next chapter is stirring, but for now, time has stopped for you. The silence has a shape now, not a flat emptiness, but a contour curved like a cradle, soft like a memory you haven't had yet. You're still asleep, but the space around you has changed. It feels slower, deeper, like your body is resting inside a thought the universe once whispered and never took back. If time is still frozen, then everything is holding its breath with you. The wind no longer rustles. The trees have stilled there, dancing. Even the stars, normally gliding across the sky at imperceptible speeds, feel as though they are suspended. Like fireflies caught in amber, and somewhere inside that amber, you dream. And listen closely, not with your ears, but with whatever part of you still knows how to be still. The next chapter is stirring, but for now, time has stopped for you. The silence has a shape now, not a flat emptiness, but a contour curved like a cradle, soft like a memory you haven't had yet. You're still asleep, but the space around you has changed. It feels slower, deeper, like your body is resting inside a thought the universe once whispered and never took back. If time is still, frozen, then everything is holding its breath with you. The wind no longer rustles. The trees have stilled their dancing. Even the stars, normally gliding across the sky at imperceptible speeds, feel as though they are suspended, like fireflies caught in amber. And somewhere inside that amber, you dream. But this dream isn't a story. It's a sensation, a floating awareness, unburdened by form. You aren't anyone in particular. You're not tied to a face or a name. You're simply present. An observer in the stillness, watching without time. Here, there is no clock to tell you how long you've been dreaming. And so, your soul unfolds at its own pace, like a flower blooming in a world without seasons. No rush, no deadline, just being. And maybe this is the point. Maybe time doesn't really stop. Maybe it's simply, let's go. Let's go of its grip on your thoughts, on your cells, on your pain. Because time is what moves things forward, but it's also what wears things down. And when you sleep, it's as if life asks permission to pause the wearing, to stop the slow erosion of stress, memory, and worry. It offers you stillness, and in stillness you grow. A paradox, isn't it? Stillness that heals, stillness that moves you deeper than motion ever could. You begin to sense that your body is not asleep the way the world thinks. It's not unconscious, it's simply aligned, in rhythm with something larger, something cosmic, because your cells keep working, your brain keeps adjusting, your lungs keep rising and falling like the tides of a hidden ocean. And maybe that's what this is, not sleep, but returning to the ocean, the great internal sea where we all began, where we floated before we had language or time or weight. In this ocean, you are whole, untouched by clocks, unafraid of change. And here comes the twist, the secondary hook. What if, while time stops for you, it doesn't stop for everything else? What if you're slipping between timelines? You dream of things that haven't happened. You wake with answers to questions you never asked. You feel a deep familiarity with strangers. You catch glimpses of parallel lives. Could it be that sleep is not just a reset, but a portal? That when time pauses for you, it continues around you, carrying other versions of you forward. Somewhere, another you is still awake, still walking, thinking, regretting. But this version, you stepped out, stepped aside, stepped between. And that's why waking feels so strange sometimes. As if you're returning, not just from rest, but from somewhere else. A version of you that went to a deeper place and came back, changed. And it makes you wonder how much of who you are right now was shaped by what happened while you were gone, because dreams don't come from nowhere. They come from the fragments left behind by the parts of you that wandered beyond time. And when you dream of people you haven't met, or futures that haven't arrived, or lives that don't belong to you, maybe they do. Maybe they belong to the you that lives where time doesn't, the you that wakes only when the ticking stops. There's something deeply comforting about this idea, that even when you stop moving, you are not lost, you are not behind, you are simply somewhere else. And when you return, when your eyes flutter open, when your fingers twitch, when the world resumes its rhythm, you are fuller, not because of what you did, but because of what you let go of while you were away. And so, as this chapter begins to fade, you find yourself back at the question that started it all. What if time stops while you sleep? But now, the question feels different. Not curious, not scientific. It feels sacred, like a prayer whispered to the dark. Not expecting an answer, but grateful for the silence that follows. You may never know if time truly stops, but if it feels like it does, if your soul returns softer, lighter, more whole, then maybe that's enough. Maybe the truth of time isn't meant to be measured. Maybe it's meant to be felt. And in that feeling, you find something timeless. You find the part of you that only exists when everything else is finally still. So rest now. You're not missing anything. The world can wait. Because in this moment, you are the stillness that time forgot to carry. And in that stillness, you are more real than ever. But even stillness eventually breathes, and something stirs. Something. Beyond sleep, it's coming. Chapter 4, and it remembers you. There's a moment, just before waking, when the soul hesitates. It lingers between two worlds, neither fully asleep nor truly awake. A breath is held, a thought unfinished. It's a quiet pause, too soft to notice, too sacred to define. And in that space, time feels like a suggestion rather than a rule. You don't know how long you've been here, but it doesn't matter, because here, duration is meaningless. Only presence remains. You are not dreaming anymore, not in the surreal way of floating cities or talking stars. You're not awake either. There's no weight to your limbs, no urgency in your chest. Instead, you are aware, not of the world, but of something deeper, something like the rhythm underneath all things. If time truly stops while you sleep, then maybe this is the place where you meet what exists before time began. And if that's true, what else begins here? Maybe peace isn't found in the end of motion, but in the absence of measurement. Maybe rest isn't the absence of noise, but the presence of stillness. Stillness that has been waiting for you. You begin to sense it. This stillness isn't empty, it's full. Full of whispers that never needed words. Full of moments that don't need clocks. Full of truths that don't need to be proven. There is a hum underneath you, not a sound, a sensation, like the universe is breathing. And tonight, you're breathing with it. What if that's what sleep really is? Not unconsciousness, but synchronization, when you stop trying to live on top of time and begin to live with it. You realize the stars do not chase the morning, the oceans do not resist the moon. Everything flows, everything yields, and yet everything remains. So why do we, the most fragile of all, fight the flow? Why do we fear the night? Perhaps it's because we confuse sleep with loss. Loss of time, loss of control, loss of awareness. But sleep is not loss. Sleep is trust. You lie down each night and trust that your body will breathe, that your heart will beat, that your mind will carry you somewhere safe and return you in the morning. That's not passivity, that's faith. And now, another thought glides through the quiet. If time stops while you sleep, do you age in stillness? If your cells repair in a moment that doesn't pass, if your mind grows in a space that doesn't move, then maybe you're not aging at all. You're becoming. You are not running out of time. You are returning to the part of you that never ran in the first place. The child, the dreamer, the observer, that part of you still exists, not in the past, but here in the still breath of now. And maybe this is why some dreams feel more real than waking life. Because in this place, this space where time lets go, you are not defined by the life you've lived. You are defined by the depth of your being, by the quiet courage it takes to stop, to release, to drift. And now, something strange begins to form in the distance. Not a shape, not a sound, but a memory. You don't recognize it, not exactly, but it feels ancient, like something your ancestors carried in their bones, like the way wolves still tilt their heads to stars they don't understand. this memory isn't personal. It's cosmic, a memory of being still. Before time began, the first cell, the first breath, the first pause before motion. And in this memory you realize sleep is not the absence of life. It is life at its most essential. Because when everything else falls away, you remain. Not your schedule, not your worries, not your name, just you. And isn't that beautiful? To know that beneath the storm of hours and years, there is a version of you untouched by time. A version that exists only in stillness, only in silence, only in sleep. And when you wake, you carry that stillness with you. You may forget your dreams, but you don't forget the feeling, the softness in your bones, the quiet in your breath, the sense that something inside you has been gently rewritten, not changed, restored. And maybe that's what matters most. Not whether time actually stops, but whether you remember how to begin again. Because in this story, there is a loop, a rhythm. Night arrives, you sleep, time pauses, you return, and in each return, you are a little more whole. You close your eyes at the end of a long day, and the universe meets you in the dark. Not to teach you, not to test you, but to hold you, to remind you that the world can wait. Because right now, you are resting in eternity, and time is resting with you. But deep beneath that calm, something begins to stir. A whisper from beyond the veil, a ripple in the stillness. The return is near, and time is beginning again.